This is part 3 of the Hazbin Hotel series. Y'all want to see more episodes like this early? Become a member only. This episode has been delayed for a little bit, about 2 days, for the upload schedule to catch up. You guys are not on Monday, Tuesday, but you are on a Wednesday, so this makes it easier for me to upload on those times. Thank you all, and enjoy!
Izuku could only pant in exhaustion as he lay down under the midday sun. Mere meters behind him, Vaggie was also sprawled out and exhausted. "Come on, 2 more laps," Charlie called joyfully as she jogged past them. "How can she run that much? It's been like 90 laps. Vaggie groaned in pain as she tried and failed to sit up. "I don't think I can feel my legs right now. Definitely not healthy." "Is she always like this?" Nezu asked from the sidelines. The small principal wasn't concerned about how much they had run, given that even Ingenium had done 50 laps before collapsing during his time at the school, so 93 laps was surely an achievement. The fact Charlie seemed to keep going was just the icing on the cake. "Like you wouldn't believe, I love her, but she never seems to get tired until it's bedtime," Vaggie panted. "At least she isn't singing right now." Izuku shrugged as he rolled onto his front and pushed himself up, staggering slightly as he did so. The flames that engulfed his skull was wavering like mad, even though his skull was visible and his pale hands were bright red from the last exercise of push-ups. He still managed to help Vaggie to her feet and help her off the track just as Charlie came around for her 95th lap. Sitting down in the shade with a half-empty bottle of water was Momo. She was bright red and exhausted after only managing 17 laps around the kilometer-long track, 621 miles long. "I say we put sleeping pills in her next drink," Charlie stated bluntly. "That or that stuff Baxter made." "We are not turning Charlie into a sex-crazed maniac." Izuku deadpanned at an unashamed Vaggie. "Hey, she certainly didn't complain last time." Vaggie snorted as Charlie tripped halfway through her 96th lap and started snoring. "Cute," Vaggie whispered in awe as the heiress of hell slept peacefully. "At least Luna isn't here." Izuku deadpanned, unaware of a slaughter said werewolf was helping with in America. Way to kill the mood. Vaggie sighed as she flatly stared at the flaming demon. "Quit arguing, it's distracting." Nezu grunted as he marked off a few things on a clipboard. "Now, let's see what's next, shall we?" Oh, well, all done then." "You almost gave me a heart attack." Vaggie groaned tiredly as she stumbled over to the shade next to Momo. Without a pause, Momo handed the exhausted demon a bottle of water. "Well, that concludes the entrance exam." Nezu chuckled aloud, drawing looks from the 2 demons and 1 heiress. "Why else do you think I had you doing all of that exercise?" "You have a special spot at the hotel when you die, rodent," Vaggie growled, while Izuku gave an exhausted sigh as he rubbed at his forehead. Nezu ignored them as he cheerfully hummed while walking away. "Dinner is being held in the common area tonight in dorm 1A given the previous tenants are expelled. Pick your rooms while I sort out your paperwork," the principal called back with a dismissive wave of his hand. "The other exams start in 2 hours, so stick around and watch if you want to, ta-ta." Again, special place at the hotel, like door greeter. Vaggie growled. "Maybe we could have Alistair swing on the door again." "For once I agree." Izuku sighed with a slump in his posture, the flames on his skull finally extinguished as his muscle, then flesh knit itself back together like some form of reversed incineration. "With Bakugo." Bakugo growled in anger as he sat on the bus to Yua Academy. "Stupid bitch of a mother, stupid father, stupid fucking Deku for jumping. He had to sort through all his crap in the spare room for fuck's sake." Across from him, a vine-haired girl in a tattered white dress couldn't seem to make up her fucking mind. She kept opening the lid to a container, then snapping it shut again, while scrunching her eyes and taking deep breaths. Oh man, the fuck up. Bakugo snapped in anger, making the girl jump slightly. Nobody is going to fucking give a shit if a shitty extra like you eats or not. I see. The girl nodded as she opened up the box and pulled out a hunk of raw meat, which she proceeded to place delicately in her mouth before chewing. Fucking extras. Bakugo scoffed. You better not sit near me during the exam's meat breath. I'm sorry, I can't help it. The girl muttered around the meat, blood dripping down her chin, which she quickly wiped away using a vine. Bakugo barely noticed that the vine itself was covered in a lot of dried blood. If it didn't involve killing villains, himself or his mother, he didn't tend to notice anything. Further down the bus and out of sight, a pink-skinned girl sniffed the air curiously before looking around, trying to figure out what smelt so good. Whatever. Bakugo scoffed as he stood up. Move your shitty-ass tree face, we're here. I have a name, you know. The girl sighed as she packed away the small box into a bag filled with several more boxes. While she did regret killing the pervert, her vines demanded substance and better a sinner than a saint. And I don't care. Bakugo scoffed as he watched ahead, the bus jolting slightly as it passed over the Uebara, which when retracted was little more than a speed bump. When it comes down to it, I'll be number one, not some extra. Elsewhere, Nimuri grinned in anticipation at the being standing before her. Lucifer grinned back at the woman laying before him, legs spread wide. His wife Lilith licked her lips next to him as she massaged at his shoulders. Do we have a deal? Nimuri asked. For sure, my dear. Lilith smirked as she sauntered over to the purple-haired woman. One night with us in exchange for some of that lovely shampoo your company makes without having to break the bank, so to speak. Kinky demon threesome for the win. Nimuri cheered as she pulled Lilith onto the bed. Lucifer's grin grew. That is some kinky shit. Redacted. Nimuri twitched slightly as she laid on the bed, basking in the afterglow, while Lucifer laid to her left smoking a cigar. Lilith on her right was passed out with a content grin. Well, my dear, in advance, welcome to hell. Lucifer grinned. Worth it. Nimuri grinned before a knock was heard at the door. Nimuri, hurry up. We have an exam to grade. Snipe called from the other side of the door. Nimuri bolted up in shock. Time flies when you have fun. Lucifer chuckled as he picked up his wife and vanished in a puff of red. 1 minute, I need to get dressed, she called as she bolted for her cupboard. Too much information, Snipe shouted before storming off. Fuck, Nezu is going to kill me. Nimuri panicked as she struggled to put on her leotard. Back with Bakugo. The explosive blonde growled in anger as he waited in exam area B for the test to start. Some blue-haired brat wouldn't leave him be, and it was getting on his nerves. At least the vine-haired extra wasn't around. The gates opened with a grinding clunk. Without waiting, he shot through using his explosion, uncaring that he took one examinee's arm clean off, or burnt the face of a brown-haired girl with a bob cut, a burn that would ultimately leave a scar over her left eye. What are you waiting for? There's no countdowns in real life. Go, go, go. Examinee 1E329 and 1E372, we have medical bots on the way. Present Mike called out over the PAW system. I'll continue. The bob-cut girl called as she raced into the test area with the others. Uncaring of the pain plaguing her face, she couldn't let anyone else get hurt. In the observation room overlooking the test area, All Might grinned to himself like a giddy schoolgirl just as Nimuri burst into the room barefoot, her shoes held in hand. Ah, now we are all here, let us truly begin. Nezu cackled to himself. Been a while since we awarded persistence points, but I believe wanting 372 deserves some. All in agreement? Yes, was the general answer aside from Aizawa. Illogical. She is injured and needs medical attention. How can she save someone or stop a villain if she is half blind? Either way, that still brings it to 4 out of 5 points for her actions. Nezu stated simply. Keep an eye on the one that harmed her, however. I have a feeling our new juice will want to have words with him. To say the exam was unique would have been a gross understatement. Not even the normally sadomasochistic Kayama had much to say. One girl was fighting with half her face burnt. The blonde who did it was berserking on the robots, and a vine-haired girl was racking up points fast enough that the robot's secondary programming to go after the largest threat had overloaded, causing them to go to the nearest source of noise. So, all in agreement that blonde asshole will be handed over to either the cops or hell? Vlad King asked in a bored tone. Agreed. Almost everyone replied in unison. Only Nezu and Recovery Girl said nothing. Nezu because he still wanted to see where things went, and Recovery Girl because she was biting down on her cane in anger, using it as a gag to stop her screams of anger ringing out through the school. It's illogical not to just call the police on this one. Aizawa droned from his sleeping bag, a juice pouch in his grasp. Kachin never went this far before. Izuku admitted softly as he entered the room with Charlie and Vaggie under escort of Lunch Rush, who handed a pouch of juice to Aizawa and a thermos of coffee to Snipe, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the room, watching the monitors and occasionally marking something down at a computer. True, but we can't interrupt the test without having to retest everyone unless he attacks another applicant again. Nezu stated bluntly. You know the HSC is just wanting to jump in and take over the school. Stupid pencil pushers. Nimiri grumbled in annoyance. On more than one occasion, the HSC or Hero Safety Commission had tried to interfere outside their purview, such as with the school, which fell under the Education Board, or in Heroes' private lives on numerous occasions, even without merit. Nimiri herself had a personal grudge against them after they blacklisted her original hero costume and later did the same to her second one. She didn't get what the problem was. Linger was clothing, hence she wasn't naked after all. Charlie nodded empathetically as she patted Nimiri's shoulder. Tell me about it. The amount of bureaucratic bullshit I had to go through to open the hotel was insane. I'm still surprised that you managed to get it all done in a week, while Vaggie and I struggle with the damages list for just 1 week. Izuku's sweat dropped. Shush. Tired. Vaggie groaned as she tried to get to sleep on one of the chairs in the corner. Aizawa nodded in sympathy with the moth demon. Test arena B. Ibara panted as she squeezed her vines together, causing a dozen or so robots to come crashing down from above, breaking on impact with the ground. That lot alone should be about another 13 points to her total. While it was helpful, the majority of her points had came from rescue points, mainly by pulling others out of the path of danger or swatting aside fallen debris. Not that she knew it. To her knowledge, she was only on 28 now. Listen up, contenders, only 5 minutes left. Present Mike called out over the intercom system installed over the fake city, making many students start to hurry up or panic. 42, a blonde teen with a jeweled belt called in a French accent as he rushed down the street and into an alleyway. 39, a brown-furred teen who looked like a Sasquatch called as they ripped a robot in half. Make that 41. 59. A ginger-haired girl with large hands called as she rushed down the street in the opposite direction to the initial teen. Ibara gulped nervously. She had only gotten a few in comparison to the others. Her hair twitched in irritation as she rushed off to find more robots, only to find herself back on the main street of the false city, which was now littered with the husks of the robots destroyed earlier. The sound of crunching and grinding filled the air as contestants began to scream and run past Ibarra, who whipped around in confusion before freezing in shock. A massive robot with treads was plowing straight down the main road, flinging debris everywhere. Something shot towards it only to be swatted aside. A shout of pain got her attention as dust kicked up from one of the fake cafes. A bloodied arm was sticking out of the rubble. Her eyes went wide as she sprinted forward, her vines helping to propel her along. "Hold on, I'll help you." Ibarra smiled softly as she grabbed the hand and removed the concrete using her vines. Staring up at her while growling was the same blonde teen she sat next to on the bus. He was bruised and covered in scrapes and dust, but looked fine aside the unnatural positioning of his thumb, which was twisted. "Fuck off, shitty hair," the teen shouted. "I was just trying to help." Ibarra replied as she tried to pull the teen out only to receive an explosion to the face. With a scream on pain, she fell back as the cement slab fell back onto the teen's legs. "You shitty-ass bitch." The blonde screamed right before a massive explosion burst forth from him, collapsing the buildings and sending Ibarra flying across the street. In time, Present Mike called out as the robot froze. Its arm was mere feet away from the blonde teen's location. "Everyone leave the test areas and head back to the buses. Arena B and D. Rescue will arrive shortly." Ibarra could only groan as she pulled herself from the rubble. Her dress was shredded and some of her vines were torn. A cut was across her lower lip from which a steady trickle of blood was seen. With the local demons. Izuku frowned as he was rushed down to Arena B with Snipe by an intern called Yogi, who was driving them by golf cart of all things. Charlie, who was still full of energy, was rushed to Arena D with Cementos after a building collapsed, trapping the teens inside the arena. Cementos was there to clear the mess, while Charlie was carrying a first aid kit given Recovery Girl was off to Arena A with Hound Dog. Only Arena C had nothing bad happen, but Lunch Rush was still headed there to hand out drinks anyway. When they reached the arena, Izuku was somewhat impressed and shocked at the amount of destroyed robots. Snipe immediately rushed to the collapsed cafe where the blonde had been pinned, while Izuku brought the first aid kit to the vine-haired girl. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked as he stopped next to her. "Huh?" she asked groggily as she blinked lazily at Izuku. She sniffed the air briefly. "Izu-sama," she uttered before collapsing into Izuku's arms. "Yogi-san, call ahead. She may be concussed." Izuku called back at the skinny man, who nodded seriously and pulled out a flip cell phone to dial a number. Returning his attention to the girl, he couldn't help but notice how much blood was on her skin and what was left of her vine-like hair. Better call Recover Girl too. It had been an absolutely piss-poor day for Mina Ashido. First she slept in and missed breakfast, almost missed her bus. Kirishima still hadn't returned her calls from last night, and to top it all off, she had been placed in the same exam arena as a flamboyant blonde who went around copying everybody's quirks, and then had to gall to insult her when he couldn't copy her. Not her fault that her quirk was nothing more than her demonic heritage. Apparently her mother had brokered some deal with a high-ranking angel in order for her to stay on Earth, even though she herself was stuck in hell from the time she had turned 2. Now, to top it all off, she was stuck waiting for someone to clear the massive doors into the arena after the conjoined twins went berserk on the zero-pointer and threw it at the doors, which brought down 2 buildings once they were covered by its shadow. Currently, she was sitting atop a 3-pointer that one of the kids disabled by making it malleable and unable to support its own weight. "Dark One, we request a seat," the bird-headed of the conjoined twins stated in a blunt tone. "Sure, I'll budge over. Name's Mina Ashido." She gave a cheerful fanged grin as she slid aside. I am Fumikage Tokoyami, the teen replied as he sat down next to her. And your sister? Mina asked after a few moments of silence. The bird-headed teen merely looked confused. You have a mutation quirk that gives you a bird head, and your sister is a sentient shadow. She deadpanned. Is that true? Tokoyami asked as the bird-headed shadow materialized on his shoulder, nodding sheepishly. Why didn't you ever tell us? I'm shy. Confrontation never solves anything. The timid shadow replied as its form wavered in the sun. I must confess this is news to me. I wonder if mother and father know. Fumikage hummed to himself, while his twin merely shrugged before vanishing only to reappear sitting atop his head. Everyone back from the rubble. A voice called loudly from the other side of the wrecked buildings. A few moments passed before, with a grinding crunch, the buildings slowly sank into the ground like kinetic sand melting into a puddle, but fast-forwarded. Standing there with hands on the ground was the pro-hero Cementos, a man who had a block-shaped head with a simple ponytail and 4 blocky fingers on each hand. Next to him was a white-as-snow-skinned teen, who looked to be their age, with long blonde hair done in a simple plait that reached their ass, wearing black jean and a white button-up shirt, a simple first-aid kit held in her hands, her red eyes scanning the area for anybody who needed help as she rushed into the arena, stopping briefly to give band-aids to those with minor cuts and bandages to those who had worse, like the short girl in the dress who defeated the robots she had came across by making mushrooms sprout everywhere inside them. Mad revelry, Fumikage uttered, so much wounded. The mad revelry indeed. His twin agreed in shock. Since when the fuck did the princess have permission to visit Earth? Mina muttered, ignoring the twins' looks as she jumped off of the malleable lump of robot and made her way to the blonde who was helping bandage a cut that went down the leg of a kid who could climb into shadows. Okay, just keep off of it for a couple hours. You should be good by then, I think, she uttered, making Mina shake her head. I'm sorry to say, Your Majesty, but humans don't heal that quirk. Mina explained only to jump back to avoid being brained by the medical tin. Peace, peace. Why is a member of Imp here? Charlie asked defensively. I'm not a part of Imp. Mum struck a deal with someone to let me stay with Dad. Mina explained, much to the injured teen's confusion. Michael, she started. Shush, 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 Charlie hissed as she covered the pink-skinned girl's mouth. Ixnay on that, okay? Mina rolled her eyes but nodded reluctantly. Another one, Cementos groaned as he pinched the bridge of his rather flat nose. Is this place a crazy magnet? Another? Mina asked as she practically teleported to Cementos with how fast she moved. Charlie was only a split second behind her. A girl in Arena B being treated by medical bots is scanning similarly to you and your friends, miss. You know I never did get your last name. Cementos broke his sentence off with his stray thought. Oh, it's Magni. Charlie waved it off. Behind them, Fumikage made his way over. Greetings, O dark princess. The bird-headed teen nodded with respect. Hi again, your parents doing good? Charlie asked with a grin. Father didn't listen and Mum insists I need to listen to more hip-hop. He shuddered in horror at the mere notion of the music. You know each other? Mina asked with a raised eyebrow. Trust me, the circumstances were odd to say the least. Charlie gave a small grin. Fumikage buried his beak into his hands in embarrassment, while Dark Shadow gave a small chuckle. Mina grinned. Oh, she just had to hear this. Aizawa growled lowly to himself as he slammed his head once more against a random wall in Recover Girl's medical ward. He kept repeating the same mantra to himself. There can't be more demons. Across from him, sitting at her desk, Recovery Girl rolled her eyes as she filled out the basic forms Vaggie had provided to the elderly nurse. All up it was a basic hotel resident form for Happy Hotel, citizenship papers for Hell, which Vaggie was helping her with, and a medical report chart which the moth demon left for the nurse. Izuku, meanwhile, was still out at the arena, digging his former friend out of the rubble. The basic resident form was quite simple. It only required name, age at death, stay in hell, genders, basic description, quirk, demonic abilities, dietary restrictions and allergies, and finally sins. The form ended up filled by the time the other exam areas had been fully cleared and most of the examinees were sent home. Only a few had remained behind. A girl from the support class exam called Mei Hatsum, who had to wait for a pickup truck to arrive to haul her stuff back home, and the local demons in Momo, who were now living on campus for the foreseeable future, with Momo leaving her family properties in the hands of the resident staff for as long as needed. Stop trying to kill yourself. I'm one of only 2 people who handle paperwork at the hotel, and I am not wanting any more. Vaggie warned Aizawa before tossing a pencil at the brooding teacher. Don't get me wrong, but I don't plan on dying soon. Aizawa stated bluntly. Vaggie rolled her eyes, but went back to helping Recovery Girl, and everything was quiet for a few minutes, only punctuated by the tired hero's repeated mantra. That's what most people think. A chipper voice stated as Charlie skipped into the room with a burnt and bruised Katsuki Bakugo, who was bound and gagged, who was dragged in by an exhausted-looking Cementos. Charlie, we love you dearly, but don't ever fill out the forms. Izuku groaned as he staggered in behind them, a mountain of paperwork taller than he was in his arms, a short red-haired, pale-skinned demon with a single yellow eye and a large, fanged grin skipped in next to him, a box of paper in her arms. "Hiya, boss," she chirped, shoving the box on the desk in front of Vaggie and Recovery Girl. "Found these in the drawers for housekeeping instead of admin." "Hey, Nifty, why are you here instead of keeping Baxter out of trouble?" Vaggie deadpanned at the cheerful demon. "Oh, I just asked Baxter to use the teleporter." Nifty shrugged before skipping over to the spare coats Recovery Girl kept on the wall and put one on. "Oh, neat, I'm a doctor. Paging Dr. Nifty. The patient needs their eyeballs replaced." She giggled loudly. "2 things," Charlie stated. 1. How are things at the hotel? 2. You didn't teleport bread, did you? "Well, yeah, it's all we had to test the device before I could go through. That didn't involve losing something important," Nifty replied as Recovery Girl snatched the coat back from the demon and tossed it in a laundry basket near her desk. "I'll go deal with it." Izuku sighed as he dumped the paper on Charlie and walked back out the door. "Explain, now," Aizawa ordered. Baxter's teleporters often turned bread into full-blown food demons. Vaggie supplied as she helped Charlie with the papers just before she lost her balance, sending it everywhere. "Joder, solo porquay." "Language," Recovery Girl snapped, whacking Vaggie across the arm with her cane. Who knew she could speak Spanish? Nifty hummed to herself before jumping onto the bed next to the vine-haired demoness. "Oh, hey, I know her." "You do?" Charlie asked. "Yeah, Alistair bought her into his spare room in the hotel." Nifty replied honestly as she began to kick her legs back and forth. "Alistair," Charlie screamed. Her horns, claws, and blood-red eyes were visible for a few moments, making Aizawa gulp nervously and Recovery Girl nod in understanding, having on more than one occasion wished she could do similar when dealing with a certain buffoon. The room got darker as radio static filled the air. Reality itself seemed to glitch like a television with really bad reception as the buzzing grew louder and Vaggie pulled out her spear defensively and Cementos dropped into a fighting stance before with a loud fuzzy buzz. A black pointed shoe attached to red pinstripe pants stepped out of the darkness, a cane topped with an old-style microphone, not used since before the dawn of quirks, appeared next before the figure fully stepped out. Standing there in all his smug glory was Alistair, the radio demon and one of the most feared beings in all of hell in his signature red pinstripe suit, his crimson hair spiked up as always and his dark pink monocle was as always balanced neatly on his cheek. "You called, your majesty." The demon grinned widely. His yellow eyes scanned the room with disinterest until they fell upon the unconscious vine-haired demon. "Ah, that is where she went to." "Alistair, what did you do?" Charlie asked as Nifty shot under the bed to hide, taking a few loose papers from the floor with her. "Oh, simply put, this little sinner was preaching falsely when she was ripped in twain by one of the upcoming attractions and devoured. I merely found her first and decided to help." The radio demon grinned with a bow. His cane stretched out behind him with his other arm across his chest. Bakugo merely growled through his gag like an enraged chihuahua, going unnoticed by many. Cementos shushed him while keeping his eyes on Alistair. "And why?" Vaggie asked while glaring daggers, knowing full well how the demon operated. "The same reason as any other person does anything." Alistair grinned in a wide and unsettling manner, his head tilting to the right as he leaned forward. Pure, unadulterated boredom. Should have seen that answer coming. Vaggie deadpanned. "If teleportation is common, why did she take the unstable teleporter?" Aizawa asked as he glared flatly at Nifty. "Oh, she just wanted the excuse." Alistair waved it off with a more normal grin. "Anyway, now I know she is in good hands, I will be off. I have a radio show to get to, Toodles." With a burst of static, he was gone. The room was silent for a few moments before the doors were once more opened, and an exhausted Izuku stumbled back in now covered in a greenish-brown dough. "Bread monster is dead." "Hello, Green Bean," Alistair shouted as he appeared right behind Izuku. The green-haired demon screamed in fear. His hair caught ablaze and flared several feet in height as he went rigid and fell over onto his side. Such a joker, anyway, have fun. With a wink, the demon once more vanished. "Fucking hell, tell me he isn't going to do that often." Recovery Girl panted slightly while clutching at her chest. "Unfortunately, we can't promise that," Charlie admitted as Nifty grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and began to spray Izuku before he could accidentally burn down the room. Further down the hall, another scream followed by Alistair's cackle reached their ears. "Sorry." "Didn't he say he has a show?" Aizawa asked. "Not for another few minutes, sadly." Vaggie sighed as she checked the clock hanging from the wall above Recovery Girl's desk. "You're all problem children," Aizawa declared bluntly as Nifty grabbed a now foam-covered Izuku and literally tossed the teen onto the bed next to the vine-haired demon. What happened next shocked everyone as her vines shot out and wrapped around the catatonic teen and pulled him close. Once he was within arm's reach, she wrapped him in her arms and legs, while the teen turned bright red in shock and embarrassment, his hair thankfully not igniting thanks to the foam. "Izu-sama," the girl muttered softly but still loud enough to be heard in the quiet room. Even Katasuki was quiet, although it was more probably in shock of seeing his should-be-dead victim clearly, since before the teen had kept behind and well away from the explosive blonde. "I hope she stops that soon," Vaggie muttered darkly as he grip tightened on her spear, while Charlie's usual smile grew strained. "Teenagers," Recovery Girl huffed. "I'm demanding a raise." Aizawa deadpanned as he turned and left the room, headed straight for Nezu's office and officially done with this shit. elsewhere. Azazel smiled as she sat in the local church. There was no service or sermon, just quiet as the priest went about his normal duties. A man with a white shirt with a gold tie sat down beside her with a soft smile. "Hello," he greeted them quietly without looking. "Hello to you too, daughter." The man smiled softly, chuckling quietly when Azazel whipped around, eyes wide at him. "Father, you shrunk," Azazel uttered bluntly, too in shock to do anything. "No, honey, you've just grown," the man replied with a soft smile. "You've been behaving, haven't you?" "Of course, father, but where have you been?" Azazel nodded softly as the priest made his way down the aisles, a broom in hand. "Ah, hello, you two. Do you require any help?" the priest asked with a calm smile. His quirk simply gave him a pair of extra arms, and as such his suit had been adapted for that fact. "No, we're all right," the man replied with a soft smile and shake of his head. "You remind me of someone." The priest hummed softly. "Oh," the man smiled softly with closed eyes. "Yes, you rather do look like Morgan Freeman," the priest stated. "I do get that a lot," the man admitted. "Sorry for disturbing, but may I ask how long you will be?" the priest asked. "I have to clean the aisles, and I don't wish to inconvenience you two by blocking your path." "Ah, I see. Come along. I saw a nice ice cream parlor down the street." The man smiled as he took Azazel's hand. "My treat. You still like waffles, right?" Azazel nodded, drooling at the mere thought of one of the few pleasure foods allowed in heaven that she was more than willing to indulge in. "When we're done, we have a lot of catching up to do. Like, how is everyone? Is my sister behaving? Did you remember to wash behind your ears?" "Father," Azazel muttered in embarrassment, while the priest smiled in amusement and went back to cleaning once the two had left the church. Thanks it for today. All new video are linked for channel members below, and goodbye.